My crazy psycho aunt allows her son to rob me blind by literally stealing thousands of dollars worth of Pokémon cards, merchandise, and equipment, while also taking my entire manga collection. And after confronting her and demanding that she give it back to me, she claimed that there was nothing I could do about it and that I would never get my property back. So I decided to escalate things, resulting in my aunt getting arrested. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, so basically, I am a very huge fan of the Pokemon franchise and the anime and manga. I play the games, I play Pokemon Go, I collect the cards and watch the anime, and my collection of cards and my Pokemon Go account both are like decent for someone who doesn't spend that much money on them. I also have an entire collection of mangas, like Attack on Titan and One Piece and stuff like that. Well, my spoiled cousin came over yesterday to my mom's house where I live, and I was outside in the park playing Pokemon Go, and when I arrived home, he was watching TV on the couch. While I was out playing Pokemon Go, I went to a card shop and I bought a booster box of Scarlet and Violet base set. And for reference, a booster box is basically a package that has a lot of Pokemon card packs, and the odds of pulling a rare card are increased in a booster box. Now, my cousin is very jealous of me because of my collection, but honestly, I just ignore him, since if I didn't, he would annoy me like crazy. I opened the booster box, I sorted the cards, and I added them to my collection. After a few hours of me playing Pokemon Scarlet, my cousin came into my room and just sat there. Well, it was getting time for me to go to a hangout to one of my friends' houses, and after a few hours of that, I came back home at about 7 o'clock, I went into my room, and to my absolute shock, all the binders of my cards were gone. My Nintendo Switch was gone with all of its games, and my entire manga collection, with my Crunchyroll account being taken as well, because he changed the password on it. Well, I quickly called my mom, who at the time went to go shopping, and my cousin didn't want to go, so she left him here alone. I informed my mom on what happened over the call because she was still out shopping. So then I called my aunt since my cousin was also not there, and she told me that she had come pick him up and that he's gonna borrow my stuff for a while. She said to me, "He wanted your thing, so I allowed it because he's just a child." Now at this point, I completely freaked out. I also checked up on my Pokemon Go account, and guess what I see? My password was changed. So probably he also gets the details from my tablet, since I also keep Pokemon Go on there in case my phone is not cooperating and just keeps crashing. My card collection is valued over 6 figures in US dollars. The Nintendo Switch and all the games cost well over $1,000, and my Pokemon Go account is probably worth about 860 US dollars, with my entire manga collection being well over $4,000. I said I was gonna call the cops if all my stuff wasn't returned, and my aunt said to me, "Go ahead and call them. I will just lie and tell them that your cousin owns all of this." So that's exactly what I did. And after I called the cops and showed security camera footage of them stealing all my stuff, the cops quickly reviewed the footage and went and arrested my aunt, since she was the only one old enough to arrest, as my cousin was left in the house. I currently don't know what else is happening, but I will provide updates as they come along, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is crazy! Your aunt is not only a piece of garbage, but the fact that she would allow this to happen in the first place is insane in my opinion. Here's the thing, I really do believe the original poster here, because some of these Pokemon cards can be very expensive. Just look up some of the prices on these cards, especially if they have a collection of older vintage sets. Like, I can really believe the fact that they've sunk thousands of dollars into this. Like, this really is not a cheap hobby. This really does have some serious money behind it. So the fact that your aunt allowed their kid to basically rob you blind and steal all your accounts and your equipment, like, that is crazy. That is absolutely insane. So seriously, I really hope this all gets worked out for you, because the way you're being treated right now is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk tries to leave his motorcycle in the middle of our gas pumps, claiming that this would be the perfect spot for him to park his bike while he grabs some groceries across the street. And I'm honestly still stunned by this guy's idiotic behavior, and I really hope I don't have to deal with him ever again. Here's what happened. I had a customer come in earlier on a motorcycle where they got some snacks and some gas, and honestly, we didn't really have any issues, and they really started off as a friendly guy. Well, as he was paying, he looked back out the window at his motorcycle, still parked at the pump, and started telling me that that should be a good enough spot for him to leave his bike, as he's got to grab some things from the grocery store next door. Now, obviously, you guys know why that's a bad thing to do. It's common sense not to do it. So I was kind of surprised I even had to explain to the guy that no, you can't leave your motorcycle parked at the gas pumps while you go shopping in another store. Well, you would think I was trying to explain astrophysics to him, him for how confused he was by that. I did point out that he's welcome to bring his bike to park at the side of the building or in any of the parking spots at the grocery store's parking lot. I mean, it is literally next door. We share parking spaces, and it's not going to be any more effort for him to take his bike over there than it is to walk to the store. Well, this guy started saying, "How dare you tell me what I can't do?" And he was super aggressive about this. He was literally trying to argue that he was just going to grab a few things so it would be quick. It's just a motorcycle. It's not taking up that much space. But it's like, my guy, that's not the issue. You can't park at the pumps and then dip out because then customers who need it can't use the gas pumps. I don't think he ever understood why he can't just park and bail, because that requires thinking about something other than yourself. But eventually, he just begrudgingly said that he would take his bike over to the grocery store, which apparently was like the biggest inconvenience in the world. And I'm honestly still shocked by this guy's stupidity. Yeah, that guy really is incredibly stupid. Seriously, you can't just block a gas pump and be like, "Oh, this is fine, right? I'm just gonna be gone for like a few seconds." And the fact that you guys share the same parking spaces as a grocery store, like, that is so weird to me, and honestly, there's no excuse for that. That guy was just being super lazy, and honestly, the fact that you shut that down and got him out of there, in my opinion, was the best thing you could have done in this situation. Am I overreacting for the way my brother and his wife treated my family at his wedding ceremony? Because right now, I'm still incredibly upset and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my brother and I are very close. He's a best friend to me and we talk almost every day. Unfortunately, his wife and I don't always see eye to eye. In fact, we both have young children around the same age. He calls me one night and asked me to take him to the hospital because he threw out his back. On the car ride there, I told him that he needs to take better care of himself since he's a father now and that his girls need him. Mind you, this isn't the first time I've taken him to the ER for this same issue. It's also midnight and I had to wait for him to get treated and eventually dropped him back off at home at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was a bit annoyed and I told him that I couldn't keep doing this for him because I have work and kids of my own now. Well, I come to find out later, he went home and tells his wife all of this and they both get upset with me. They were legally married but never had a wedding ceremony. There have been talks about having one, but they never follow through with it. Well, they decided to plan one within 2 weeks of this incident. It was a last-minute backyard wedding. The food was potluck style, and they didn't even have lights, so it was done mostly in the dark. He invites me and the family to the wedding as guests, and when the ceremony begins, I find out that his best man is our aunt's husband, who he isn't even close with. And I was stunned because he didn't pick me, even though he was my best man. His groomsmen are friends and family, and his ring bearer is our 19-year-old cousin instead of my 3-year-old or my 5-year-old son. He then proceeds to give a speech and thank every single person who attended, going as far as to mention all of their names, and there were about 20 people, but obviously leaves my family out of it. I was so upset that I told my wife we were leaving, and I dragged the family out. I called him a couple days later, and he acted like everything was fine. I told him what he did upset me, and that's when he told me what happened the night after the ER. He said that he felt like I was telling him how to live his life, and that me telling him to do it for his children was me calling him a bad father. I asked him where he got all this from, and he said he told his wife what I said, and that's what she assumed I was saying, which honestly doesn't surprise me. I told him unless he wants to apologize to me, there's no reason for us to speak any further, and then I just hung up on him. Well, fast forward 6 months later, and I wake up to 8 missed calls from his wife. Well, I just ignore it, and then I receive a paragraph text explaining to me that they are having marital problems, and that she is afraid of losing him. She then asked me to speak with him to try and save their marriage. Now, I just left her on red, but my wife is telling me that I'm overreacting and that I should help them. Now, I honestly don't think it's my problem, but am I the one overreacting in this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh no, you are definitely not overreacting. Your brother's wife sabotaged his relationship with you. She literally made up some scheme like, oh yeah, he's saying you're a bad father. And then because of that, you get completely ignored at this stupid wedding ceremony. Like, that is so unfair for you, it's not even funny. And honestly, what does this lady think you're gonna do when it comes to her marriage? Like, how is this your business at all? So truly, you didn't do anything wrong, and if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be staying out of this. Like, you do not have a dog in this fight, and I can only see this becoming a lot worse if you did get involved. So no, you're definitely not overreacting from this, because the way they treated you was incredibly unkind. Am I the jerk for calling out my grandparents for all the stuff they said to my mom in front of their friends and extended family? Because after they got exposed, they're now saying that I'm incredibly disrespectful for calling them out. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old female, and my parents and I spent Saturday with my dad's family. So when my mom went missing in action for a bit longer than usual, I went looking for her and I found her upset. She said nothing was wrong, but an hour later, I heard my grandparents call her a bad mom, and I stopped and admittedly, I eavesdropped on what they were saying. They were saying that my mom should be ashamed for crying where I could see her. And how did my dad ever let her raise me with him when she abandoned me when I was a baby for weeks and didn't even care about me back then? They said that my mom was a lunatic and should be ashamed of herself for ruining my family. Now for context, my mom had postpartum psychosis after I was born. She got really sick and spent 11 weeks in a hospital and in a treatment center to try and help her because she was really at risk. My dad tried to get her help, but a lot of people dismissed him. I was maybe 8 or 9 weeks old before someone took him seriously and finally helped him with mom and got her the help that she needed. The experience left them both incredibly shaken, and it took my mom a long time to fully recover. But when she had, they were afraid to risk more kids, and so they decided that they were one and done with me. Now, I've always been aware of this, so hearing my grandparents speak to my mom like that was awful. Mom finally left them while I was still eavesdropping, and she pulled away and said it was okay. A while later, a group of us were in the kitchen eating, and my grandparents were making comments about how lucky some people were to have a lot of grandkids and how much it helps when each kid has more than one. Well, my dad was like, wait a second, what's going on? But that's when I snapped and I brought up how awful they were to make more digs at my mom. I called them out on it. I said it was disgusting and mom didn't deserve the crap they said. My grandparents told me that I didn't understand and I know they love me, but I said they sure didn't talk like that. I said calling my mom a lunatic and rubbing it in her face that she only had me and no more with dad when they know she was sick after me made it seem like I just wasn't enough for them. I also said it was awful to shame a woman who made the safest choice for her family. My dad was furious with his parents and asked what in the world was going on. They then slipped up and basically confessed that they'd been saying awful stuff to mom ever since I was a baby, and they were saying this always behind everybody's back so we wouldn't know. They tried to lecture me about calling them out, but dad shut it down and asked me and mom to wait in the car. Well, apparently some of the extended family are against me now for calling out my grandparents in front of others, and my grandparents are saying how disrespectful I am. But my dad raged at anyone who blamed me. But I wonder if maybe I should have handled it more privately. Like maybe I should have told my dad about this instead of calling them out in the way that I did. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. These grandparents absolutely knew what they were doing, and I personally am a big believer that if you want to talk crap about somebody, especially behind their back, then you deserve to be exposed if you get found out. And the things they were saying about the original poster's mom is so unkind, it's not even funny. And it is absolutely ironic that they're trying to be like, wow, you're so disrespectful for calling us out. But like, look at the context here. You call them out for saying horrible things about your mom. Like, which one is worse? You embarrassing them in front of the family, and rightfully so at that, or them saying these terrible things about your mom? Like, I don't know about you, but I would much rather be seen as rude than let anybody talk badly about my family, especially my mom. Like, that's just not gonna happen. So no, you are not the jerk, because in my opinion, your grandparents absolutely had it coming. Am I the jerk for removing my groupmate's name from our group exam project, all because she didn't contribute anything throughout the entirety of the semester? Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male and I'm a senior in university. For one of our courses, we had a group exam, and it was that thing where you basically choose your own group. We needed to be a group of 5, but we were only a group of 3, so this one girl asked if she could be in our group. She had a reputation for not being actively involved, but since we needed to be a group of 5, I reluctantly agreed. Throughout the course, we had group projects to which she contributed absolutely nothing. In fact, during these group projects, she would ask us if she was a part of our group, but still contribute little to nothing. I still added her name to our group, but I became increasingly frustrated as time went on. Then our midterms came along, and it was a group exam where we had to be on site to take it, and much to nobody's surprise, she informed me through our class representative that she wouldn't be going to class. In the middle of the exam, she had the nerve to ask me if she was part of our group, as if we didn't include her the first 4 times. At that point, I just gave up and I excluded her totally. I did not reply to her message because we wanted to focus on the exam, because guess what? This was incredibly time sensitive. Then afterwards, our class representative talked to me and she sent me a screenshot of this girl asking why I'm not replying. Now to this day, I still do not reply to her messages, and now she is pretty upset with me. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk, and honestly, I really hope you talk to your professor about this, because this is so annoying. If you've ever done a group project, then you know how unreliable some people are, and this lady completely takes the cake. For starters, she's not even adding to the group, but also she's checked in 4 different times just to try and figure out if she's even in your group. Like at that point, no, you're not in our group. It's so insane that she wants to act that way and then be like, wow, I can't believe you're not replying. And it's like, lady, scroll up. You can probably see the text message of me saying, hey, you're in our group, stupid. And also the fact that she hasn't done anything for your exams or anything with this group project, like that alone is more than enough reason to be like, okay, you're not in our group anymore. Because in my opinion, there is absolutely no reason you should have to carry her along with you, especially if she's not going to contribute anything to your project. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that I'm done being her caregiver? Because right now, this entire situation is becoming ridiculous, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm 16 years old, and I have a twin sister. Let's refer to her as Laura. Laura and I have splitting personalities, but for the most part, we used to get along until high school. Since Laura was an outgoing person, she barely studied, if at all, and she was mostly obsessed with TikTok and stuff like that. Now, for me, I'm not nearly as outgoing as her. I mean, I still go out with friends, but only during the holidays, and we do activities like basketball and stuff like that. Due to her dismissal academic performance compared to mine, I am always made to tutor her by my mom. My dad knows about this, but he's busy with work all the time, and he's traveling for different meetings, so he isn't really involved in this situation. My mom is also a stay-at-home mom. Now, I don't mind teaching her, except that every time I try to teach her, she always manages to throw a fit or a tantrum, and I get blamed if she does badly in a test, so I just gave up. Next, she managed to fracture herself at a friend's house after she apparently slipped and missed the landing. I don't remember much, it maybe happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but as a result, she ended up in a cast, and it should take approximately 2 months for her to recover. They taught her how to use crutches at the hospital, but admittedly, she wasn't the best with it. Our house is 2 stories tall, and there is a staircase to go up to our bedrooms. So now she wants me to carry her all the time. And this really is not an issue for me. I'm 5'11" and she's 5'7", and I'm much heavier than her, but I'm not free all the time, nor does she want to take the effort to use her crutches. For the past 1 to 2 weeks, I relented and had to do whatever she told me, or else she threatened to complain to our mom, who, by the way, is busy in her own social life and gets fed up when we complain to her, except she takes all the blame out on me. The last straw is when she called for me to take her down the stairs to drink water while I was in a call with a friend. I was literally finishing up a group project that was due the next day. Now, I had had enough, and after the call, I went to her room and I told her that I am not her caregiver all the time and she needs to do stuff for herself. Now, as you can probably guess, she called up mom and I got in trouble again. So am I the jerk here for putting my foot down? What should I do? No, this is crazy. Why on earth are you expected to carry her up and down the stairs? That is a crazy request, and that is absolutely not your responsibility. And the fact that anybody is going along with this speaks volumes to the type of parents you have to deal with. If I was in your shoes, I would explain to my parents and be like, listen, I'm not helping her any longer. Me having to carry her up and down the stairs every single time she wants anything, that is crazy, and I'm absolutely not doing that anymore. And if your parents really don't like that, then they can step up and they can carry her up and down the stairs. And while we're at it, they can also tutor her and make sure she does her schoolwork. Like seriously, none of this is your problem, and the fact that it is your problem all because you're twins and you're siblings, like that in my opinion is crazy, and there is no good excuse for that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk here, because if I was in your shoes, I would be doing the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for not reaching out to my family after they freaked out on me for leaving the family and choosing to live my own life? Because right now, anytime I talk to them, they are constantly either screaming at me, asking to move in, or demanding money out of me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I grew up in a closed extended family. We were pretty close with my aunts, uncles, and cousins, often living together with one family unit in a single room. We're talking around 15 people in the house. However, we didn't have much contact with non-family members. As kids, we were not allowed to have friends. We were allowed to go to school, but we had to come right back home when it ended. No hanging out with classmates and no after-school activities. For me personally, being the youngest one, I was usually an afterthought even for my parents. So needless to say, I was suffering from depression. I moved out of the house when I went to college, and it was at that point I started exploring my freedom. However, even then, I was expected to call every single day and come back home every weekend. As time went on, I started to distance myself by skipping phone calls and not going back every single weekend. And eventually, I broke off all contact with my family. Well, a year after graduating, I had a pretty stable life for myself, and I thought that I would at least get back in touch with my parents and my siblings. Well, the first few conversations over the phone were just them yelling at me. And you know what? I just endured it. After months of this though, we were finally able to have some kind of conversation. But every single time, I was the one who called. When I finally visited back home, there was more yelling, and they expected me to move back into the house. Well, I refused their demand, which led to more yelling again. This continued for a few more months without any kind of progress, so I started to distance myself again. And that was over a decade ago. Last year, I started to get phone calls from several family members. However, every single call follows the same routine. First, they try to make me feel guilty about breaking contact and not calling or visiting. And at that point, I just hang up if they start yelling. But then after that, they want something from me. Usually, they just want some money or have some of my cousins move in with me. But my response to that is always a resounding no. So am I the jerk in this situation for moving away and kind of cutting off my family? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. This is such an awful situation. For starters, your family sounds incredibly sketchy and they sound incredibly controlling. Like, I don't know what their problem is, but they can't expect you, a grown adult, to move back into the house or even take in your cousins who you haven't seen in like a decade. Like, that's really strange behavior, and I don't blame you for pulling back. It's also alarming that not only are they not calling you, but they're also screaming at you when you finally do reach out and like try to make some kind of connection. Like, you're clearly a better person than me, because the second anybody's gonna start talking to me like that, that's the moment I tune out and I'm like, okay, I remember why I don't talk to these people. Like, they seriously expect you to move back into their house with them. Who wants to live in a house full of 15 people who are mad at you for leaving? Like, that kind of behavior is so weird and controlling, like I would not want to deal with that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Your family is incredibly strange, and you definitely do not deserve any of this treatment. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.